I am the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, and today is the grand day of my marriage to the Crown Prince. However, right at the wedding banquet, my mother, the wife of the current Prime Minister, personally lifted my younger sister's veiled hat, revealing her prominently bulging abdomen. Mother knelt before the hall, tears streaming down her face. Your Majesty, this official's wife's second daughter, Qinghe, is deeply in love with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and they have already conceived a child in secret. Now, to preserve the royal family's dignity, I implore Your Majesty to let both daughters serve one husband together, and let Qinghe be the Crown Prince's side consort. The entire hall erupted in an uproar. Everyone was waiting to see me break down and cry, accepting this ultimate humiliation. Yet, amidst the shocked gazes of the crowd, I helped my mother up. Turning around, I bowed gracefully toward the Son of Heaven on the throne, my voice clear and resonant. The Crown Prince and Sister Qinghe are truly in love. I voluntarily request the annulment of the marriage contract, and I ask Your Majesty to bestow my hand in marriage to Prince Qinghe. I am Su Ziyi, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, and today should have been the joyous day of my grand wedding to Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan. The 10-mile red bridal procession stretched from the Prime Minister's residence to the main gate of the imperial city, with embroidered silks covering the ground and music shaking the heavens. I sat upright in the 8-bearer sedan chair, my fingertips cold as frost, but there was not a shred of joy in my heart, only the stillness of a frozen pond. Through the gap in the sedan curtains, the boisterous voices from the Hall of Supreme Harmony Square were clearly audible, but to my ears, the thunderous drums and music were nothing more than the death knell from my past life. Everyone thought this was the most glorious moment of my life, but no one knew that I had already walked this path once before. The end of my previous life held no phoenix throne of a crown princess. There was only the sea of blood from the execution of my entire family, and the cup of poisoned wine handed to me personally by my mother. Ziyi, don't blame me. Blame yourself for standing in Qinghe's way. My mother's smile from back then overlapped in my mind with her face outside the sedan now, which was currently feigning grief. The sedan chair came to a sudden halt, and the music stopped abruptly. The boisterous voices seemed to be throttled by an invisible hand, falling into a dead silence for a split second before erupting into a mountain-toppling, tsunami-like uproar. I sat steadily in the sedan, my eyelashes not fluttering in the slightest. What was meant to come could not be avoided. From outside the sedan came the heart-wrenching wails of my mother, Lady Zhang, piercing through the silence of the entire square. Your Majesty, I am guilty. I failed to educate my daughter properly. I have failed Your Majesty and His Royal Highness. I lifted a corner of the sedan curtain, and in the blinding sunlight, I saw my mother dressed in her official noble attire, kneeling miserably upon the golden bricks. Beside her, my sister Su Qinghe was having her veiled hat torn off. That habitually weak and pretty face was covered in tear stains, and even more conspicuous was her high bulging belly, which could no longer be hidden by her clothes. Heavens! Is the second Miss Su pregnant? It must be at least 5 or 6 months. Today is the Crown Prince's wedding day. This is simply a massive scandal. Gaze after gaze, like poison-tipped arrows, shot toward my bridal sedan. Some with sympathy, some with pity, but most with the sneer of those relishing in my misfortune. I saw my father, Su Zhen, trembling with rage, his old face turning the color of pig liver. My eldest brother, Su Wen, had bloodshot eyes and fists clenched so hard they creaked. And high up on the platform, Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan was acting out a deeply affectionate but helpless role. When he looked at Su Qinghe, his eyes were full of pity, but when he looked at me, they carried guilt. If I hadn't died once already, I might truly have been deceived by this hypocritical facade. Mother continued her tearful plea, her forehead bleeding from kowtowing. Your Majesty, Qinghe is deeply in love with the Crown Prince, and was momentarily muddled, conceiving a child in secret. Now it can no longer be hidden. To preserve the royal dignity and the Crown Prince's bloodline, I implore Your Majesty to grant permission for both daughters to serve one husband, and let Qinghe enter the Eastern Palace as a side consort. A dead silence filled the hall. Everyone was waiting to see me collapse and make a scene, becoming the laughingstock of the world. But under the watchful eyes of the crowd, I reached out and personally pushed open the sedan door. My wedding shoes, embroidered with gold phoenixes, landed steadily on the ground. Dragging the heavy phoenix crown and embroidered robes, my hem traced a resolute arc as I walked slowly to stand before my mother. Her wailing stopped abruptly, and she looked at me in disbelief. I gave a faint smile, my voice soft yet clear. "Mother, why put yourself through this?" As I spoke, I leaned down to help her up. Her body wouldn't stop trembling. I didn't know if she was acting or if she was truly afraid. Royal dignity is naturally more important than anything else. I wiped the tear stains from the corner of her eyes, but my gaze bypassed her to look directly at the crown prince on the high platform. Then, I turned toward the throne, straightened my wedding dress, and performed a standard grand formal bow. "Your Majesty, I believe my mother's proposal is inappropriate." The Son of Heaven's eyes, usually as still as an ancient well, finally showed a ripple. I straightened my back and said loudly, "The Crown Prince and Sister Qinghe are truly in love and already have the fruit of their love. This is a romantic tale that should be fulfilled. If I were to marry into the Eastern Palace now, wouldn't I become the villain who separates lovers? Not only would it bring shame to His Highness and my sister, but it would also make the Su family the laughingstock of the world." As the words fell, the Crown Prince's face turned deathly pale, and Su Qinghe swayed as if about to collapse, her weak appearance drawing pity from others. Facing the Crown Prince's shocked gaze, my voice suddenly rose, echoing across the entire square. "Therefore, I voluntarily request the annulment of my marriage contract with the Crown Prince." The world-shaking words caused an uproar. Before anyone could recover, I kowtowed again. "I know this harms the Royal Majesty, and am willing to become a tonsured practitioner, entering a royal temple to pray for the dynasty to fulfill this sentiment." These words were watertight. They preserved everyone's dignity, while keeping me completely untainted. But this was not my final move. I raised my head, my eyes burning as I looked directly at the Son of Heaven, saying word for word, "I make a bold request. I implore your Majesty to bestow my hand in marriage to Prince Jinggan, Xiaofeng, who has guarded the northern border for 10 years without return." Silence, absolute silence. If my mother's actions were like throwing a boulder into water, my words were equivalent to detonating a volcano. Prince Jinggan, Xiaofeng, the current emperor's younger brother, held 300,000 iron cavalry at the northern border. He was the stabilizing pillar of the Great Liang, but he was also the legendary living Yama, who killed without blinking and remained without a concubine even at nearly 30 years old. The noble ladies of the capital would rather marry a peddler or a servant than set foot in the Prince Jinggan's estate. "Sosiji, you are mad." The Crown Prince could no longer maintain his composure. He rushed down the platform and gripped my wrist tightly, his force nearly crushing my bones. "That is my royal uncle. He is a madman. Marrying him is seeking your own death. What happened today is my fault. I will make it up to you. Enter the estate first, and I will never treat you poorly." He hissed in a low voice, a hint of undetectable panic hidden in his tone. I looked at him calmly, my gaze moving from his tight grip to his hypocritical face. In my previous life, I was deceived by these few words, eventually ending up in a tragic death. "Your Royal Highness," I said coldly, "have you and I ever bowed to heaven and earth together?" He froze and shook his head. "Since we haven't, I am not your wife." My voice was as piercing as an ice blade. "You cherish Sister Qinghe so much. If you can't even give her a proper status and let her follow you unclearly, wouldn't that make her and the Su family a laughingstock? By acting this way, are you loving her or insulting us?" Every word was like a heavy hammer, making Xiao Jingyan's face grow paler. My father finally reacted. He stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, what my daughter says is absolutely correct. The Su family has been loyal for generations. We are by no means soft persimmons to be toyed with. I implore your Majesty to uphold justice for the Su family." Mother screamed and lunged forward. "You unfilial daughter! Do you want to destroy the whole family?" I looked back at her coldly, my gaze so strange it made her heart skip a beat. "Mother, from the moment you knelt down, the person who destroyed everything was you. You value reputation most, and now the fact that the Crown Prince and my sister have conceived a child is a reality. Only if I withdraw completely and marry Prince Qinghe, a royal prince, can this storm be painted over as a beautiful tale, where everyone gets what they want. The crown prince gets his beauty, my sister gets her wish, and I get to be matched with a hero. Isn't that perfect for everyone? This speech blocked every possibility for anyone to gloss over the matter. The Son of Heaven on the throne gazed at me for a long time, his eyes showing the appreciation of a chess player seeing a fine steed. What a match with a hero, glory for the whole family. He stood up, the 5-clawed golden dragon on his dragon robe shining brilliantly. Pass my decree. Crown Prince Xiao Jingyan is deficient in virtue. He is confined to the Eastern Palace for 3 months of reflection. Su Qinghe's conduct is improper, but considering she may carry the royal bloodline, she is conferred the title of Crown Prince's Lady of Excellence, Liangdi, and shall enter the Eastern Palace on a chosen day. Rewards will be discussed after the birth. Su Ziyi, the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, is virtuous and sensible. Her marriage contract with the Crown Prince is annulled, and she is betrothed to Prince Qinghe, Xiaofeng, as his primary consort, to be married upon his victorious return. So it is decreed. Liangdi, a rank lower than a side consort. I could almost imagine Su Qinghe's furious expression. Xiao Jingyan roared in dissent but was forcibly taken away by the imperial guards. I knew that the first step of my revenge had been taken steadily and fiercely. The journey back to the Prime Minister's residence was terrifyingly quiet. Just as we entered the gate, my mother lunged at me like a mad lioness, delivering a harsh slap to my face. A burning pain spread across my cheek. You monster! I exhausted my efforts for you so that you could become the empress in the future. Why did you destroy everything? I held my burning cheek and instead burst out laughing. The laughter sounded incredibly eerie in the deathly silent hall. Mother, speak with your conscience. Did you act this way for me? Or so your grandson could be the emperor, and the Zhang family could hold all the power in court? You knew about the scandal between the crown prince and Qinghe, yet you chose to make it public on my wedding day. Wasn't it because you wanted to use me as a shield to force the royal family to accept Qinghe, making me a puppet primary consort, so you could control the inner palace? My words were like sharp blades, shredding her hypocritical mask. Mother's face turned deathly pale, and she staggered back. You're talking nonsense. Nonsense. I took a step forward and stared her down. In my heart, I thought, then what was that cup of poison wine you personally brought in my last life? Mother was terrified by the hatred in my eyes and screamed that I was crazy. You poisonous woman. My father kicked open the door and entered. Seeing the 5-finger print on my face, his eyes turned red. He pushed my mother away and shielded me behind his back. For your lust for power, you actually used your daughter as a stepping stone. Someone come, take the madam back to Qingfeng court. She is not allowed to step out without my permission. Mother was still crying and screaming as she was dragged away. I watched coldly. It was because I believed her. It's for your own good, lies in my previous life that I ended up without a proper burial. Soon, the palace eunuch messenger came to deliver the decree, officially conferring upon me the title of Princess Consort Qinghe. My father looked at me full of worry. Ziyi, Prince Qinghe has a violent temperament and the northern border is a desolate cold land. Why did you choose him of all people? I poured hot tea for my father, my gaze firm. Father, after today, if I stay in the capital, the crown prince will hate me to the bone, and mother will not let me go. My life would be in danger sooner or later. Marrying into the northern border seems like moving away from prosperity, but in reality, it is escaping the sinking ship of the crown prince and climbing onto a real mountain of support. Prince Qinghe holds heavy troops and is the arm of the imperial family. By marrying him, I can not only protect myself, but also seek a way of survival for the Su family. Father stared at me blankly, his eyes full of shock, and then old tears began to flow. Good. As expected of my, Su Zhan's daughter. Father will prepare your dowry right away. Even if you marry to the ends of the earth, it will be done with grand style. In the following days, the entire Prime Minister's residence was busy without rest. Father nearly emptied the warehouse to prepare a dowry for me that was even more abundant than when I was to marry the crown prince. Meanwhile, I stayed behind closed doors in the study, studying the local customs, geography, and military political records of the northern border. I was to marry the war god of Great Liang, and I could not be a canary who only understood romance and flowers. Rumors swirled in the capital. Some laughed at my stupidity. Others ridiculed my obsession, but I ignored them all. Qinghe was quietly carried into the Eastern Palace without a ceremony or a banquet, becoming the laughingstock of the city. After the crown prince was confined, his temper became increasingly explosive. Objects were broken daily in the Eastern Palace, and Qinghe's life was likely difficult. Mother was confined to her courtyard, crying and cursing every day. When the Zhang family sent people to visit, they were all blocked by my father. Time flew by, and the day when the crown prince died suddenly in my previous life drew closer and closer. One afternoon, my trusted maid Yunju rushed in to report. "Miss, news has come from the palace. The crown prince vomited blood and fell unconscious this morning. The imperial physicians are helpless. It seems he won't make it." The hand holding my brush paused slightly. It was happening as expected. There's one more thing. The Prince Jing'an's estate has sent people with the betrothal gifts. Yunju's voice carried excitement. I walked quickly out of the study and saw dozens of black armor soldiers standing solemnly in the courtyard. Their fierce aura made the servants of the Prime Minister's residence as quiet as cicadas in winter. Leading them was Chen Xiao, the deputy commander of the Northern Black Armor Army. With a scar on his face, he knelt on one knee. This subordinate follows the prince's order to deliver the betrothal gifts to the princess consort. The vermilion boxes with gold tracing were opened one by one. There was no gold, silver, or jewelry and no silks or satins. The first box was a pure white cloak made of Arctic snow fox fur. The second box contained sharp daggers inlaid with gems. All 36 loads of betrothal gifts were unique treasures from the northern border, practical and precious, carrying the biting wind of the frontier. In the last box lay a dark iron token, engraved with the character Feng, in ancient seal script. The prince said this is the command of Prince Jing'an. Seeing this token is like seeing the prince himself. From now on, the 300,000 black armor soldiers of the north shall all follow the princess consort's command. Chen Zhao's voice was as loud as a bell. Father gasped, filled with shock. This was no mere betrothal gift. He was clearly handing the entire northern border to me. I gripped the token, the heavy weight pressing into my palm. I sneered in my heart. Xiao Jingyan Qinghe, look, this is the man I chose. He is thousands of miles away. Yet he can give me the whole world. At that moment, the funeral bells of the palace rang out slowly. After 9 tolls, the world turned solemn. The crown prince had passed away. Father's body swayed, nearly falling over. Chen Xiao and the black armor soldiers all knelt on one knee toward the direction of the imperial palace. I gripped the token tightly, the cold sensation keeping me incredibly sober. Xiao Jingyan, you have died after all, a full month earlier than in my previous life. It was I, the reborn butterfly, who accelerated your downfall. Pass my order. Centered on the Prime Minister's residence, the area within a 100-meter radius is to be taken over and guarded by the Black Armor Army. Without my hand-signed order, no one is allowed to enter or leave. I gave the order calmly. Chen Xiao immediately deployed the troops. The Black Armor Army dispersed like ghosts, and the Prime Minister's residence instantly became an impregnable fortress. Before my father went to the palace to mourn, he repeatedly reminded me to be careful in everything. After he left, I instructed Yunju to gather news from Qingfeng Court and the Eastern Palace. Half an hour later, Yunju returned. The madam went mad upon hearing the funeral bells, crying that her dream of being the Empress Mother was shattered, and she even tried to hit her head against the wall. The second miss immediately suffered a threatened miscarriage and is unconscious. The imperial physicians say the child probably won't be saved. I picked up my teacup, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Couldn't be saved? That won't do. That bastard child is the great gift I prepared for Qinghe and my mother. How could it disappear so easily? Yunju, prepare the carriage. We are going to the Eastern Palace. I stood up, a sharp light flashing in my eyes. I am going to visit my sister and help her protect the fetus. The Eastern Palace was already hung with white funeral banners. A scene of gloom and misery. My carriage moved unimpeded under the escort of the Black Armor Army. When the gate guards saw the insignia of the Prince Jing'an's estate, they didn't even dare to question me. Stepping into Su Qinghe's sleeping quarters, the heavy scent of blood and medicine hit my nose. The imperial physicians were kneeling all over the floor, their faces the color of ash. When the palace maids saw me enter, they all knelt down. I dismissed everyone and walked to the bedside, looking down at Su Qinghe, whose face was as pale as paper. She slowly opened her eyes, and after seeing it was me, her eyes were instantly filled with fear and resentment. Su Ziyi, you killed the crown prince and you've ruined me. Sister, you shouldn't speak such nonsense. I opened the food box, which contained a bowl of medicine to stabilize the pregnancy. His Highness was deficient in virtue. It was his own lack of fortune. The child in your belly is the crown prince's only bloodline. If it's gone, guess how the emperor will deal with you? Will he gift you a white silk to hang yourself, or send you to a convent to wither away for the rest of your life? Su Qinghe's face turned deathly pale, and she trembled all over. I poured the medicine onto the brocade quilt and leaned down to whisper in her ear. In the last life, you and mother used a bowl of poison to end me. In this life, I won't let you die so easily. I want you to live well, give birth to this bastard, and rot away slowly in the deep palace while guarding a dead man's tablet and an illegitimate son. You monster! Su Qinghe screamed. I straightened up and said coldly to the physicians at the door. The crown prince's only bloodline must be preserved. Consider carefully what medicine to use. If it cannot be saved, you and your families will all be buried with this unborn imperial grandson. After saying that, I walked away, leaving behind the sound of the physicians kowtowing like they were pounding garlic. Not long after returning to the Prime Minister's residence, a decree came from the palace. The emperor summoned me to the imperial study. The palace in the night seemed even more stern, with white banners fluttering in the wind, exuding a deathly chill. Inside the imperial study, the emperor was dressed in casual clothes, standing by the window, his silhouette looking lonely. Suti greets Your Majesty. Knelt in salute. Rise. The emperor turned around, his gaze as sharp as a hawk's. My crown prince is dead. Yet you don't seem sad at all. When I requested the annulment of the marriage, I cut all ties with the crown prince. Now I am the future princess consort Jing'an. My heart considers Prince Jing'an first and honors Your Majesty above all. I dare not let old people or old matters disturb my mind. I lowered my head and responded, both stating my position and praising the emperor and Prince Jing'an. A flash of satisfaction appeared in the emperor's eyes. The betrothal gifts Fenger sent, do you like them? The prince's great love makes me apprehensive. It is not just love, it is an entrustment. The emperor interrupted me. He has handed the entire back of the northern border to you. Do you know how heavy this trust is? I looked up directly at him. I know, and I will not fail his trust. The crown prince died of poisoning. The emperor changed the subject, his voice cold. Someone mixed a rare western region poison into his supplements. It accumulated over time, until even a god couldn't save him. Su Qinghe was the one who delivered the medicine. And behind her were your mother and the Zhang family. They wanted the crown prince dead, so that bastard could become the imperial grandson, supporting an infant to the throne so the Zhang family could emulate the consort clans of previous dynasties and seize power. He threw a dossier at me. I bent down to pick it up, my fingertips ice cold. So Xiao Jingyan's death in the previous life was also their handiwork. Monstrous hatred nearly burst from my chest. I gripped the dossier tightly, maintaining a calm surface. I wonder what Your Majesty wishes me to do? The bastard in Su Qinghe's belly cannot die yet. I want to use it as bait to lure out this group of rats from the Zhang family. Killing intent flared in the emperor's eyes. I grant you a gold medallion to oversee the Eastern Palace on my behalf. Su Qinghe's pregnancy care, medicine, and diet, as well as the deployment of servants in the Eastern Palace, shall all be decided by you. Before that bastard is born, lay the evidence of the Zhang family's treason before me one by one. I obey the decree. I kowtowed and accepted the task. A raging fire of fury ignited in my heart. Mother, Zhang family, you personally handed the butcher's knife to me. In this life, I will surely make you lose your reputations and die by your own schemes. Holding the gold medallion, I returned to the Eastern Palace overnight. I locked down the sleeping quarters, dismissed the original palace servants, and kept only Yunju by my side. I searched the room carefully and eventually found a small white jade ointment box in the bottom drawer of the dressing table. The box was empty, but a faint, sweet, fishy scent remained. Exactly the same as the smell of the poisoned wine from my previous life. The bottom of the box was engraved with a tiny ginkgo leaf mark, the insignia of the Yinifang shop under the Zhang family's name. Yunju Yinifang is the Zhang family's medicinal shop, specializing in rare herbs from the western regions. I sneered. Now it seems it is more of a death-summoning shop. At that moment, Qinghe reported from outside. Princess Consort, old Madame Zhang requests an audience. My maternal grandmother has arrived. Perfect timing. Let her in. I hid the ointment box in my sleeve. Old Madame Zhang was dressed in her noble official attire, holding a dragon-headed cane. She walked in with a face full of sorrow and tried to rush toward Qinghe but was stopped by me. Grandmother, it is late. My sister's pregnancy is unstable, and the physician ordered quiet rest. By His Majesty's decree, no one is allowed to visit. I specifically emphasized the words His Majesty's decree and imperial offspring. Old Madame Zhang's expression changed slightly as she tried to use family ties to pressure me. The blood of the Zhang family flows in you, and Qinghe is your biological sister. How can you be so heartless? It is precisely because we are sisters that I must think of her. I did not back down an inch. The crown prince has just passed, and my sister is pregnant. We are at the center of the storm. If an outsider enters and something goes wrong, will the Su family take responsibility? Or will you and the Zhang family take it, grandmother? Old Madame Zhang was choked with rage, her face turning red, and a flash of undisguised killing intent appeared in her eyes. She knew that I was no longer the granddaughter she could manipulate at will. Ultimately, she had no choice but to leave with resentment and unwillingness. Have someone watch old Madame Zhang. See who she meets and what she says after she returns. I instructed Yunju. Also have Deputy Commander Chen send capable men to thoroughly investigate Yinifang. Late at night, Qinghe reported. Princess Consort, a sudden fire broke out at Yinifang. The shop, account books, and workers have all been burned to ash. The capital governor says it was an accidental fire. However, in the ruins of the fire, I found a carriage axle engraved with the Zhang family's crest. What an accidental fire! The Zhang family moved quickly, but they made a mistake in their haste. Deputy Commander Chen, take men back to the fire scene immediately. Say you are thoroughly investigating the Crown Prince's poisoning case on my orders. Make as much noise as possible, so the whole city knows I am targeting Yinifang. I ordered. When father goes to court at dawn, he only needs to show great worry before His Majesty. Afterward, I wrote a secret report detailing the suspicious fire at Yinifang, the discovery of the Zhang family's carriage wreckage, and the finding of the poisoned ointment box. I sealed it with the ointment box and ordered Qinghe to deliver it to the head eunuch, Li Duquan, overnight. Tell him this is the first answer sheet the Princess Consort Jingan is presenting to His Majesty. When day broke, the Crown Prince's death and the fire at Yinifang became the hot topics of the capital. Meanwhile, Su Zi had transformed from a pitiful abandoned woman into an unfathomable goddess of vengeance. At the morning court, several censors related to the Zhang family attacked, accusing me, a mere woman, of violating ancestral rules by locking down the Eastern Palace. The emperor turned his gaze to my father, who bowed and responded. My daughter's actions may be slightly improper, but they are all to preserve the Crown Prince's bloodline and thoroughly investigate the cause of death. This matter is of great importance. She is young, and I worry day and night that she might fail the imperial grace. These words hit the mark. The emperor's face darkened. The Crown Prince died suddenly, and the murderer has not been caught. You do not think of sharing my worries but instead fuss over rules? Su Zi is the future Princess Consort Jingan, and is investigating the case on my orders. Whoever dares to criticize again is questioning the imperial power. Those who find the murderer shall be titled Duke. Those who obstruct the investigation shall be treated as accomplices of the crown prince's killer. Once the imperial decree was issued, the censors who impeached me turned ash-colored, and the civil and military officials were as quiet as cicadas in winter. Father straightened his back amidst the complex gazes of the crowd. In this round, the Su family had won again. When the news from the court returned, I was in the Eastern Palace taking care of Su Qinghe. After emergency treatment by the physicians, her life and the child in her belly were temporarily saved. She was awake, her eyes hollow and venomous, staring fixedly at me. "Sister, it's time to drink your pregnancy medicine." I held the soup, smiling gently. "This is a prescription personally written by the head of the Imperial Academy of Medicine, using 1,000-year-old ginseng and 100-year-old lingji. Is your sister good to you? Get away," she hissed, turning her head away. I poured the medicine onto the silk fabric and sighed softly. "Such expensive medicine, and you've wasted it again. Your only value now is this piece of meat in your belly. If you want to live, you must give birth to it properly. Just kill me." She broke down in tears. "Killing you would be too easy." I leaned down to her ear. "I want you to watch me marry Prince Qinghe with grand glory. Watch your mother and the Zhang family be destroyed, and then live the rest of your life as a widow for your illegitimate child." She trembled all over. Her eyes filled with a fear greater than death. I noticed her clutching a rough safety amulet in her hand, and reached out to snatch it away. Upon opening it, there was no charm paper inside, only a lock of hair tied with a red string and a note that said, "Wait for me, signed Yan. Zhang Yan, my cousin and the most valued grandson of the Zhang family. In my last life, I only knew Su Qinghe had an affair with the crown prince. I never knew there was such filth behind the scenes. This bastard child isn't even the crown prince's, it's Zhang Yan's. The Zhang family was playing a huge game. Have Su Qinghe seduce the crown prince, conceive the Zhang family's bloodline, poison the crown prince, and then perform a swapping the prince for a leopard cat trick so the Zhang bloodline could ascend the throne." Monstrous rage and disgust surged in my heart. Holding the note and looking at Su Qinghe's panicked, desperate face, I laughed. "Not only will I not tell, but I will also tell His Majesty that the child in your belly is true dragon blood, and must be protected at all costs. I will let Zhang Yan watch you give birth to another man's child, suffering in longing and fear, and then reveal everything in front of him, so the Zhang family can be executed to the last member for deceiving the emperor." "You lunatic!" Su Qinghe screamed. I tucked away the safety amulet and the note, then ordered Chen Xiao, "Thoroughly investigate Zhang Yan. Every movement, person met, and place visited over the last 6 months must be reported in detail, no matter how small." Chen Xiao was efficient and returned with news within half a day. On the surface, Zhang Yan was a playboy who frequented brothels, but secretly on the 15th of every month, he would sneak into a suburban villa via a secret tunnel. That villa was Su Qinghe's private property. In a hidden compartment in the villa's bedroom, they found all the letters between Zhang Yan and Su Qinghe. Every line was filled with their adultery and their ambition to seize the empire. "Send a letter to Zhang Yan in Su Qinghe's name. Say that I am going to move against the child in her belly tonight, and tell him to come to the Eastern Palace immediately to rescue her." I said to Yinju, "Miss, that's inviting a wolf into the house." Yinju was shocked. "No, it's inviting a jar to catch the turtle." A cold light flickered in my eyes. I want to make him collapse completely right in front of me. Late at night, in the Eastern Palace sleeping quarters, I dismissed everyone and only kept Chen Xiao and his men hidden in the shadows. Su Qinghe was so scared she was trembling, while I leisurely peeled an orange for her. Just past midnight, a dark figure leaped into the hall. It was Zhang Yan. "Qinghe." He tore off his mask and froze instantly after seeing the scene in the room. I put a segment of orange in my mouth and said slowly, "Cousin, trespassing in the forbidden area of the Eastern Palace. You have quite a lot of nerve." Zhang Yan's face turned from anxious to shocked, and then to extreme panic. "Su Ziyi, you did this." I pointed to Su Qinghe on the bed and threw the letters at his feet. "Look at your soul-stirring love story and your brilliant plan of swapping the prince for a leopard cat." Zhang Yan saw the letters and collapsed to the floor. "You know everything? Otherwise, why would I invite you here?" I stood up and looked down at him. When your Zhang family poisoned me and plotted against the entire Su family, why didn't you say we were one family? Don't push me. A fierce look flashed in Zhang Yan's eyes. I want to see what other tricks your Zhang family can play. From behind the screen came the emperor's cold and majestic voice as he stepped out, flanked by Chen Xiao and the imperial guards. Upon seeing the emperor, Zhang Yan's face turned ashen, and his crotch became wet. Your Majesty. I knelt in salute. Your Majesty, caught red-handed with the loot. The emperor's gaze swept over Zhang Yan on the floor, filled with killing intent. Men, take the rebel. Decree a thorough investigation of the Zhang family. Everyone involved shall be thrown into the heavenly prison. Su Qinghe and the bastard in her belly shall be buried with the crown prince. Zhang Yan was dragged away by the guards, his scream shrill and pathetic. The emperor looked at me, his tone much gentler. Ziyi, you have done well. The crown prince was muddled and nearly shook the foundation of the state. If not for you, I would have no face to see the ancestors after 100 years. He changed the subject. The war at the northern border is deadlocked, and the barbarian army is pressing the border. Xiaofeng is probably about to break. The Zhang family colluded with the Ministry of Personnel to embezzle northern border food and military funds. That is the real killing blow. Your Majesty, rest assured. The vermin in the capital have been removed. Within 3 days, the food and military funds will surely start the journey north and will not delay the matters at the front. My tone was firm. The emperor was greatly pleased. Good. I authorize you to fully handle the follow-up of the Zhang family case. There is no need to be restrained. When Xiaofeng returns victorious, I will personally witness your marriage. Within 3 days, the capital was turned upside down. Zhang Song, the vice minister of personnel, confessed and handed over the hiding places of the embezzled military funds, and the list of accomplices. The emperor was furious, issuing decree after decree, leading to an unprecedented purge of the officialdom. Chen Xiao led men to precisely raid the Zhang family's power base. The once bustling Zhang estate now only had the imperial guard seals fluttering desolately in the wind. On the morning of the 3rd day, on the official road outside the capital, a convoy stretching 10 miles was ready to go, loaded with grain, cotton clothes, and medicine. Every carriage flew a black Sioux character commander's flag. That was my father's flag from years ago, and now it would go to the north in my stead, to Xiaofeng's side. I stood on the city wall, wearing a white fox fur cloak, watching the convoy head north. Yunju stood behind me, holding an umbrella to block the snow. Miss, everything is handled. I gave a soft hum, catching a snowflake in my palm, which melted instantly. My body was tired, but my heart was burning. I imagined Xiaofeng's expression when he saw the convoy and the commander's flag. He would surely know it was me. At Yanmen Pass on the northern border, the wind and snow were like knives. Xiaofeng, in black armor, stood on the city wall, his gaze like a hawk. Deputy General Zhou Yong was full of worry. General, the last of the food will only last 3 days. If we don't get supplies, the brothers probably won't hold on. The army had been without medicine for a month. The wounded camp groaned every night, and the soldiers' winter clothes were tattered, relying entirely on blood bravery to resist the cold. The crown prince had passed away, and the court was in chaos. They felt like forgotten chess pieces. At that moment, a scout came on a fast horse and tumbled to the ground. Report. A large convoy has been found 30 miles outside the pass, full of flags, its grain and military supplies. The city wall erupted in shouts of joy. Xiaofeng grabbed the scout's collar, his voice trembling slightly with something undetectable. What do the flags look like? The leading carriage flies a black commander's flag with only one character, Su. Su. The name thundered in Xiaofeng's mind. It was her Su Zi. At his most difficult moment, she had single-handedly pried open the death trap in the capital and sent life-saving supplies thousands of miles away. He couldn't imagine how much she had sacrificed. That quiet and gentle woman actually held such powerful strength within her. Pass my command. Open the city gates. The whole army shall go out to welcome them. Xiaofeng's voice was loud, echoing across the city wall. The gates of Yanmen Pass slowly opened, and although the wind and snow poured in, no one felt cold. When the first grain carriage entered the city, old soldiers knelt down and wailed. Countless iron-blooded men were moved to tears. This was the wild joy of escaping death. The counting of supplies lasted until late at night. Xiao Feng inspected the warehouse, looking at the neatly stacked grain, medicine and cotton clothes, and the heart he had kept tight for months finally relaxed. A personal guard came with a purple sandalwood box. General, this was found under the commander's flag of the leading carriage. It was specified to be handed to you personally. Xiao Feng opened the wooden box. Inside was an elegant stationery with 5 delicate characters. Take care, waiting for your return. And beneath the paper lay a dried but intact winter plum blossom. He remembered that the red plums of the Prince Jing'an's estate were her favorite thing. His fingertips lightly brushed the plum blossom as he thought in his heart. I.e., wait for me to pacify the north, and I will return to the capital to protect you for a lifetime. Meanwhile, in the capital's court, the vacant official positions following the Zhang family's fall triggered greed from all sides. The emperor summoned me to ask for a strategy on official appointments. I believe we should not stick to one pattern but promote based on talent, I said directly. Promoting brilliant scholars from humble backgrounds can not only provide fresh blood, but also let the scholars of the world see Your Majesty's wisdom. The emperor praised me, and ordered me to assist the Minister of Personnel in the operation. Half a month later, the Northern Border Battle Report arrived along with a personal letter from Xiao Feng. The report said Xiao Feng exploited the barbarians' laxity to set an ambush, crushing 30,000 enemy troops, and pushing them back 100 miles. Most of Xiao Feng's letter was military analysis, but at the end he wrote in small characters. Plum received. The north is cold, looking forward to spring. You take care too. I looked at the small characters under the candlelight, the corners of my lips curling up unconsciously. When the north is pacified and the spring breeze rises, I will pave the capital with 10 miles of red silk and wait for him to return. However, before the spring breeze arrived, dark undercurrents surged. Led by Grand Secretary Wang Duan, the old officials used ancestral rules to hinder the new policies, and the progress of promoting humble scholars was slow. The second prince suddenly appeared frequently, acting cultured and refined, being courteous to the wise, and actively supporting my initiatives. He even opened a Seeker of Talents hall to recruit scholars and gain a good reputation, faintly competing with me. I knew the crisis hidden beneath this calm, but I continued to implement the new policies step by step. After the start of spring, Vice Minister Lin Yuan of the Ministry of Personnel presided over a special imperial examination. The list of successful candidates was met with great praise. But the day before the appointments, an anonymous report reached the censorate, exposing cheating in the exam and claiming Lin Yuan had accepted bribes and leaked questions, with both witnesses and physical evidence. Overnight, public opinion flipped. Failing scholars besieged the Eastern Palace, and Wang Duan and other old officials attacked during the morning court, demanding the punishment of Lin Yuan and the revocation of my administrative powers. The second prince feigned pleading for mercy, but was actually throwing stones down the well. The emperor looked at me. What do you say? I believe in Lin Yuan. Please give me 3 days, Your Majesty. I will surely find the truth, clear Vice Minister Lin's name, and give an explanation to the world's scholars. I straightened my back. During those 3 days, all clues pointed to Lin Yuan, as if a massive net was woven to leave me with nowhere to turn. Rumors spread in the capital that I was about to fall from grace. At dusk on the 3rd day, as I sat alone in the study feeling powerless, Yunju brought an 800-mile urgent message from the north. It was a personal letter from Xiao Feng with only a few words. The barbarian high priest is good at serial plots. To break the game, one must abandon the surface and strike the core. I.e., the capital is like a battlefield, be cautious. Abandon the surface, strike the core. It suddenly clicked. I had been obsessed with clearing Lin Yuan's name, but I forgot the real goal was to bring me down. Lin Yuan was the surface, and I was the core. Yunju, immediately investigate the people who have been frequenting the second prince's estate and Grand Secretary Wang's estate lately. At dawn, I entered the court dressed in full regalia. Facing Wang Duan's questioning, I knelt directly before the emperor. I am incompetent and have not found the truth of Lin Yuan's cheating, but I found something else. I held up an account book. This is the account of the second prince's Seeker of Talents Hall. Under the name of subsidy, he distributed 30,000 taels of silver to dozens of failing scholars. These people are exactly the main force currently besieging the palace gates. The second prince's face changed drastically. Slander. If you cherish talent, why didn't you subsidize the successful candidates? Why only the resentful ones who failed? I turned to the emperor. The Lin Yuan case is suspicious, but the second prince's heart-to-harbor scholars, criticize the government, and shake the state foundation is clear. I ask Your Majesty to investigate thoroughly. As the court fell into chaos, the sound of horse hooves and clashing armor came from outside. The Imperial Guard commander rushed in. Report. Great General Xiaofeng of the North has arrived outside the palace with 3,000 light cavalry, stating the North is victorious. The barbarians are destroyed, and he has returned to report. Complete silence. I suddenly looked up, my eyes moistening. He was back. My general was back. The emperor was overjoyed and summoned Xiaofeng into the hall. Xiaofeng, covered in frost and wearing black armor, strode in, with the barbarian high priest being escorted behind him. I did not fail the mission. I annihilated the main force of the barbarian court at the foot of Mount Langjiaxu, killed their Khan, and captured their high priest. The threat of the North is gone. The emperor personally helped him up. Xiaofeng's gaze swept the room and finally landed on me. 1,000 words were expressed in that one look. He turned to the high priest and said coldly, "Speak, who sent people to sneak into the capital, collude with court officials, and forge evidence to frame officials and disrupt the court?" The high priest looked at the second prince in terror, and didn't dare speak. The second prince's face was as white as paper, and Wang Duan collapsed to the floor. The truth was revealed. The emperor issued a decree. The second prince was stripped of his status and confined for life. Wang Duan and his clique were either executed or exiled. Lin Yuan was cleared, and the new policies faced no further obstacles. On the day everything settled, it snowed again in the capital. I stood under a red plum tree in the eastern palace, a snowflake landing in my palm. Steady footsteps came from behind, and a warm black cloak was draped over my shoulders. The winter of the capital is over. I said softly, "Yes, I'm back." Xiaofeng pulled the cloak tight for me, his voice low and gentle. I turned around and met his deep eyes. The slaughter and coldness were gone, leaving only overflowing tenderness. "Xiaofeng, spring is here." He reached out and pulled me tightly into his embrace. The hug was firm and warm, just like my longing through countless days and nights. I still owe you a 10-mile red bridal procession." Yes, spring was here. The spring that belonged to us had finally arrived. From then on, the vast rivers and mountains were peaceful. And by my side, I would forever have that general who could block all wind and snow for me.